prerogative right would be divested or taken from the king, he shall not be bound. At the Revolution, the sovereignty devolved on the people. Now, think about that. Devolved. Well, isn't that kind of like the opposite of evolved? It evolved away and then devolved back. And they are truly the sovereigns of the country. But they are sovereigns without subjects and have none to govern but themselves. The citizens of America are equal as fellow citizens and as joint tenants in the sovereignty. And that's Chisholm versus Georgia. Another U.S. court case. So devolved. It evolved away because remember the Magna Carta? The Welsh barons rose up and stuck a sword to King John's throat and said, "Here, King, we want you to sign this." And if he didn't, they would have run him through. And so he signed it, and that's the Magna Carta. And so at that point, they were the kings. They were all a whole nation of kings and queens. And he was their servant. And that's to this day in Canada. This is a court case that talks about that. The Magna Carta is not a unilateral act emanating solely from the spontaneous will of the king, as the charters of the predecessors of John. Neither is it a treaty, for we cannot say that it was concluded between two legitimate and independent sovereignties, nor between two nations, nor is it a law. The barons do not appear in it as subjects, for they are freed from their promise of fidelity, and the king, brought captive, placed before them, submitted to the conditions which the conquerors imposed upon him. The Magna Carta is therefore a contract, but resembles a treaty concluded between two nations, in that one of the parties, in virtue of the law of war, can impose its will upon the other. And so that's what they did, didn't they? They stuck a sword to his throat and they said, "Here, king, we want you to sign this. Let's have a signing party." The Queen has an oath of allegiance. We, the people, owe no allegiance to the Queen. The Queen owes allegiance to us. You have to understand that. Who owes allegiance to who? That means all her servants owe allegiance to us, too. Matter of fact, one of the guys here that was today was telling me that on some speech recently, the Queen said she loved freedom fighters. And I believe that a lot of government bureaucrats do appreciate it when we assert our rights. And I believe that they would stand up to these international bankster thieves in a heartbeat if they knew that we would support them. But most people are so absolutely clueless and asleep at the wheel that they're not going to go and stick their neck out, and I don't blame them.
Yet here we are.
Yet here we are, that's right. Well, it's got to start somewhere, doesn't it?
You bet it does.
Same thing exists in Canada. The Charter in 1982 refers to citizens of Canada several times. Well, Canada is a corporation, okay? It doesn't even have any land. So if you're a citizen of Canada, then you're a corporation, by definition. Courts have told us the laws of Canada are federal laws. Citizens of Canada are federal citizens. So there's actually two classes of citizens. But my attitude is I tell them I'm not a Canadian citizen, I'm a Canadian national. Because nationality is common law. Now, as far as the original nations, what I'd be doing if I was them is I would put a sign up on the borders of the reservation saying, "You're entering foreign territory." That's what I'd be doing. Because that's exactly what should be going on. Anyways. In Canada, there are at least two major classes of citizens, state and federal. All the provinces, if you look at the Interpretation Act, we'll go into that. You can be a national without being a citizen. Citizenship is part of a political community. If you look, this is the U.S. passport application. And if you notice here how it says, I got in a box, non-citizen national. Okay? You can be a national without being a citizen. You don't want to be a citizen. Citizen's a corporation. Non-citizen nationals. U.S. citizens and non-citizen nationals. They know all about us. It is, however, true in all common law countries and has always and consistently been held that the wife and minor children take the nationality of the husband and father. This is common law doctrine. Okay, now, now when you go and get a green card for your wife, say you want to get married to some girl that's in a foreign country, and in order to get her permission to come into the country, well, they're calling you a Canadian citizen, so they're dealing with corporations. But you don't have to get their permission. That's the point. It's the same thing in the States. You know, they were in Congress. I'm sure you've seen all the stuff on TV about the so-called illegal immigrants. Okay. Well, I sent a registered letter to every member of the U.S. Senate and the U.S. House Committee on the Judiciary. So the U.S. House has about 35 congressmen, and the Senate is about 17. And I told them they're perjuring their oath of office, because as soon as you set foot on American territory, that you're a state citizen, okay, and an American national, and you have all the rights and protections under the Constitution. Matter of fact, a state citizen has more rights than a U.S. citizen. A U.S. citizen's a slave. Anyways, and I sent a registered letter, told them that, and you know what they did? Next thing you know, they're on TV saying they're calling them undocumented workers. Eh? Anyways, so they know what you're talking about. They know exactly what you're talking about. Why do we, the people, set up governments in the first place? Protection against foreign enemies. Protection from each other. To administer disputes in a fair and partial manner. Okay, so foreign enemies is make war against foreign countries if necessary, or defend us against foreign countries. Protection from each other. So if I want to, if I decide I want to get mad at somebody and beat somebody up, well, then that's assault. And they're supposed to come in there and charge me with assault. That's what they're supposed to do, right? And then if I, if I run into somebody's car on the street, nobody's hurt, but I caused injury to their property. So then they sue me, and the government is supposed to be there as an intermediary and resolve the issue, right? That's what they're supposed to do. That's the only reason, is protection of our rights, protection of our rights and our property. It's the absolutely only reason that governments are set up. So you have, this is the hierarchy. You have God, okay, supreme being, King of Kings, created we the people, okay, and we the people are sovereigns. We created the government. And then the government, subordinate to we the people, and the government created corporations. Okay, and corporations are subject to the government and subject to regulation. But because of our own ignorance, it's our own ignorance of the law and how the law works, that we've gotten ourselves into what the courts view to be contracts. And we've given up our sovereignty. We went down and we applied for a social insurance number when it doesn't apply to us. Okay, we applied for a driver's license when it doesn't apply to us, and I can show you it doesn't. Our parents went and got birth certificates for us when it didn't apply to us. This is how you're supposed to record your births, right in the front. This is common law, and I'm not sure how the original people do it, but here we go. Here's a family tree. Marriages, births. That's how it's supposed to be recorded. And they know it, and they know that that's perfectly acceptable. Why is God in the Constitution? You know, every once in a while the communists, well, I mean the New Democratic Party, get up and say, well, we want to take God out of the Constitution. Well, of course they do. because if God was out of the Constitution, well then there would be there'd be nothing stopping them from doing whatever they want to do. The reason God's in the Constitution is because our rights come from God, and then if our rights come from God, only God can take them away. And I'll show you how we're under martial law. The Queen has an oath of office, so they'll sit there and run up and down and make all sorts of statements like that, but I don't think it'd get very far because it's got to get past the Queen or her representative. It just shows how clueless people are when people actually consider that. You know, they actually vote for these kinds of people. You know, I just can't believe it. Anyways, where does sovereignty come from? Sovereignty exists because of common law. The people of all countries with the common law of England owe their sovereignty to the common law. Now you might think that that's Canada and the U.S., and obviously it is, okay? But what about the Philippines? Yeah, the Philippines, because the Philippines was liberated by the United States in the Second World War, and I've seen court cases that talked about, they were talking about customs and import duties and stuff like that for the Philippines, between the Philippines and the U.S. And because the Philippines was liberated. And so obviously they still have to do customs and import duties, but Philippines is a protectorate that's got common law. Same thing with Japan. In Canada, United States, Australia, New Zealand, in all common law countries, we the people are sovereign. The people. Whether it's the original people or we the people, still the people. That's what I always put in my documents. Holder of the office of the people. Common law was brought to England with the Magna Carta. This is taken from the Commentaries of the Laws of England by Sir Edward Coke. This is like in the 1500s. Existed prior to the Magna Carta. I can show you common law goes back thousands of years. So does this law merchant too. Probably existed from the beginning of time. This is actually taken from Sir Edward Coke's first part of the Institutes of the Laws of England. He lived between 1552 and 1634. And he said the law of England is divided into three parts: the common law, which is the most general and ancient law of the realm, statutes or acts of parliament, and particular customs. The common law appeareth in the statute Magna Carta and other ancient statutes, which for the most part are affirmations of the common law. In other words, it's affirmed. It's just recognized that it exists. Okay? They didn't bring it there, it was already there. I can show you court cases that say common law was here before the government was even here. Matter of fact, the Iroquois Constitution, if you read that, I mean, it's the U.S. Constitution's patterned after it. How can you lose sovereignty? In order for a member of the sovereignty to become subject to a regulation in any way, you must agree to it. None of it applies to the people. Not one word of it. As with any contract, it must be knowing, willing, and intentional. Ignorance of the law is no excuse. You're supposed to know the law. I mean, you know, quite frankly, there's nothing worse than having to study all their codes, rules, and regulations. So all I know about their codes, rules, and regulations is it doesn't apply to me. So that's all I need to know. You see what I'm saying? Is it doesn't apply to me. So go away, bureaucrat, leave me alone. And I start administrating them. And perjury oath, I accept your oath of office. I go for the oath of office. That's where I go for. That cuts to the chase right there. Yes?
So where does somebody find a copy of the common law?
It's the unwritten law. You have to understand the common law.
Yeah.
The common law, it's the Ten Commandments, okay, is basically
Common law too.
huh?
This is common law too, our criminal code states right in it.
Well, yeah, see, the criminal code, yeah. At any rate, common law basically says you can do anything you want as long as you don't damage someone's person or their property, okay?
No victim, no harm.
That's right. No victim, no harm.
And do what you say.
So basically, when you're saying ignorance of the law is no excuse, you're referring to the common law. You're not referring to...
Oh, I'm referring to their law even. I mean, if you look at section 19 of the criminal code, it says that ignorance of the law is no excuse. So if you're ignorant...
But that would be in your capacity as a strong man.
No,
not-
well, see, the
not
criminal code, you're right. The criminal code only applies to straw men, you're right. But even at common law, ignorance of the law is no excuse. Okay, in other words, see, at common law, there's nothing they can do to you. Okay? Actually, at common law, ignorance of the law is, see, there's no law. I mean, at common law, there's no law. Okay? Common law is basically, I mean, if you say, I didn't know I shouldn't kill that guy, well, sorry, that's not going to help you much. Okay? If you say, I didn't know I shouldn't steal that property, then that's not going to help you much. But if you say, oh, I thought that was mine, here, you can have it back. Well, it was a mistake then, right?